Revenge of the slip joints. What's up, guys? We are going to be talking about some slip joints today. As always, hit the like button, ding that bell so you're notified every time we come out with a new video, and comment down below. Consider subscribing.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. Slip joints are bouncing back, and they're bouncing back hard.
They are.
We could, jump right into this one because we have a list of manufacturers. If you were wondering, what makes a slip joint, I'll kick it off with a budget slip joint that has taken over the world, and that's the Real Steel Luna. This is a cool knife, but a slip joint, and I think we discussed it maybe once before.
Yeah, we did.
A slip joint is literally where the back of the blade has a particular angle cut into it, and this is the back spacer is actually under tension against the blade. And when you move it, it's a spring, and it literally pushes the back spring out, puts tension on the blade. And then if it's many have a half stop. This was neat because it has a 3/4 stop, and this is one of the things that really sets the Luna off. And it's full flat ground, and it's D2, and it's G10, and it comes really sharp. And it has jimping right here.
And that fingernail groove on the Lunas is just ridiculous.
This is an incredible little knife, but that's what a slip joint is, a non-locking knife. Okay, and it literally, you can hear the detents.
It's Grandpa's
on the back
knife.
of the blade kicking. Yes, Grandpa's knife. This is a modern interpretation with a pocket clip.
And I think with just the world we live in, it seems like slip joints have kind of made a huge comeback because people don't want to carry big, oversized, frame lock folders or OTFs or fixed blades. Like, they want something simple. And it's crazy to me. I mean, as knife guys, you always kind of like slip joints, right? It's like holds a little special place in your heart. But it's bizarre that all of a sudden there's this huge comeback. I mean, guys, like, just to run it down, like, you got Benchmade, Spokers, Spider Co's, obviously Real Steel, Victorinox, Chris Reeve, Fall Niven, Kaiser. Like, there's all these different ones, Cold Steel, Hinderer, they make a slip joint. And it seems to me that slip joints are back.
Yeah, I think so. They're back, and they're back in a big way.
Right. They're all modern, they're not really bone handle anymore. Like, they're G10, they're micarta. Really kind of cool, to be honest with you.
And it's a world knife, quite frankly, because world laws are so strict with knives that, you can't really get into the traditional, not traditional, but the modern era of Americanized knives in most parts of the world. But this allows you to still be a man and carry a knife in a world that doesn't want you to be. Because it's a slip joint and it's legal in most places. So figure out what your laws are. But you can typically carry a slip joint anyway.
And it's, the thing about slip joints, I think, overall, is they're not abrasive. They're not shocking. People don't panic. It's not a tactical knife whatsoever. I mean, obviously it closes on its own, right? It's a great knife to, learn the basics of knife skills on.
Yeah.
It's just an all-around great knife.
And because people are into it from different companies, you have all levels from imports like these that are inexpensive. And because they're carbon steel, you can actually etch it, which like Josh and I have done with some stone washing and etching, which makes this knife really cool. Yeah. And I have a couple of them that I've done that with as well. So you get to have fun with these the scales. All of that stuff, because it's a budget knife, but it's really, really well built, and it's something that's enjoyable to use. But you could play with these. People are going to be a little scared to play with a case knife because it's more collectible, it's more expensive. But then you get all the way up to grail knives. You have GEC out there that you can get. You have, now Benchmade is in the game, Spider Co, and actually Medford is starting to get into a traditional style knife now.
Interesting. Wow,
I
didn't know that.
Yeah. So pretty new to the game to that. You can't get away from it. It's a phenomenon because what's interesting is the world goes and it's a crazy place. We want to harken back to simpler times, and a slip joint allows you to harken back to a simpler time.
Yeah. I mean, guys, we both have kids, me and Greg, and obviously with us being knife guys, we want to teach knife safety and things to our children. And the Luna with it being a slip joint, that's a knife I've strongly considered as a first knife for my daughter. They're just, it's just a good slip joint. And a slip joint is something that, guys, if you don't carry a slip joint, maybe you are like, a really cool tactical knife guy. Maybe you carry something like a Kiku or a ZT or even something like a Medford, something that's high end. Nothing wrong with that. But guys, sometimes it's just nice to carry something simple. Maybe you got to dress up and you don't really need a big knife in your pocket.
Great gift to give to for the non-knife people in your family, right?
It is.
Kind of evangelized my father-in-law who, he's a gun guy. He doesn't have a problem with it, but he's not really been in the EDC world. And he never carried a knife. And he always needed one. So actually, I got him a different version of this. This is the Boker City Tool, or whatever it's called. I think that's what it's called. And Boker makes a phenomenal. Hear the snap?
Yeah.
That's satisfying, right? Boker makes really high quality stuff. Yes, it's an import, but it uses a good steel, 17C.
It's got a little glass breaker on it,
does
which
have
is very
little,
interesting.
That makes
for
it
slip joint.
The tool, right? It does have a glass breaker. And it's 17C 27, so it's a decent steel, very stainless. And they have different versions. So for him, he's an engineer, so he likes the multi-tool. They make kind of a Swiss Army version, but it's carbon fiber slab, so it increases his ability to carry it because it's light, and it has a pocket clip. And so he actually carries it every single day.
Nice.
And it's not a knife that I would carry every single day, but he nerded out on it. So slip joints give you an opportunity to evangelize the EDC life, right?
It's a great glass breaker. Not everybody's no pun intended. It's a great glass breaker.
Yeah. Not everybody's gonna hop into like a P-Sark, and that's where you're gonna evangelize people. If anything, they'll be scared of it. What they're gonna do is, though, they're gonna think this is neat, right? This is also good for the wives to get into as well. You can start them off and say, hey, you know what? Why don't you get into this as well? And this is a great place to start because it's easy to open. It's unintimidating. It's not hard to deal with.
And guys, I know people that literally only carry a slip joint. Yeah. Like that's the only knife they have. And it's really, it's as deep as you want to dive in, they've got them for you. You might be one of those guys who, might be a little snobbish with your knives and you're like, oh, I'm not buying a budget knife, which personally, I think you might be missing some, missing some great knives there. But,
there's some richness out there. I mean, when you think about not going budget, at $70 for a slip joint for the average person, that is not a budget knife. It is American made. This is a case, and this is their green micarta, and this is their trapper, and it's a bare-head slim, and so it doesn't have a bolster down here. This is like their Carhartt series, and so the grinds are on the bolster are there. It's not a polished micarta, and you can handle that for sure, and you'll see that's kind of what Josh likes with, and check out his review, we'll link that as well, of the Warncliffe copper lock, black micarta, and this is the green, and it's an awesome knife if you can find one. People are snatching up because we've been wanting micarta from Case for so long.
It's so crazy to me, and this goes back to how slip joints are coming back, right? So slip joints have been around for ages. And bone handles and things. This is a perfect example of the progress, right? So Case is, they're they hearken. Yes. They are, when you think of a slip joint, that's like one of the first brands that comes to at least my mind. And this is how like even they have started to become modern, using something like micarta, but it still has that, traditional feel. And then we look at the Lunas where it's G10, all modern. It looks like it's probably a lockback. But it seems to me the American companies are still kind of keeping it somewhat traditional. Modern, but traditional. Modern products. Modern materials, thank you. But still a fantastic.
So thumbs up, Case. Thanks for jumping into that world because that is what is needed. And a great comparison to that is Josh's new knife, and this is the Proper by Benchmade.
Yeah, that's the clip point version.
And and what's really nice too is it has a half stop. And a half stop is really desirable on a slip joint, and typically a higher end slip joint or a slip joint with sort of significant resistance, because slip joints should have some resistance while opening and closing. That way it doesn't flop. It doesn't, if you get into some material, it doesn't just instantly close.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually kind of like a Swiss Army knife will kind of instantly close. You have to be really careful. Where with this, it's a little bit more forgiving. And the half stop is nice because as you close it, you have time to stop, get your fingers out of the way, and then close, right? And so the Benchmade Proper uses high-end materials, right? And you've got the micarta scale, the lanyard.
Well, the lanyard didn't come on it. I put that.
No, but the lanyard hole rather. But you
Right.
put your own lanyard in it, and it's S30V. You know what? Clip point design, and it's got a wonderful profile.
Mm-hmm. And this blade also comes in a sheep's foot, which is a nice touch. I actually wanted the sheep's foot. Bought the clip point because obviously I lean to clip points, as so does Greg.
Yep.
But after I got it, I was like, man, this would be a really great sheep's foot blade. Which I don't regret getting the clip point at all. It's still a fantastic blade, but it says a lot that Benchmade sells a slip joint now.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's been out for a minute, but it's one of those things that probably doesn't get talked about a lot. And the theme of slip joints is where do you go from modern to traditional? And I think that you can slide anywhere in between, and you can take, like, there are modern versions of this, and a really, really cool company that I wasn't aware of until recently is Smith & Sons. And so you can see this is a traditional slip joint, clip point. Boy, a lot of words there in one sentence, but traditional clip point. And it is a slip joint, so it doesn't have a pocket clip, right? It does not have a liner lock. But let's say that you really want that traditional feel. You can go with something like this. And this is not a slip joint, but I think it's worth comparing that this is a kind of a tactical trapper with micarta. But Smith & Sons is really cool, and we'll do a review probably on this knife as well. But yeah, there's pocket clips out there, liner lock, but it gives you the illusion of a slip joint.
Right.
But being fully modern as well. So there is that possibility. But at the end of the day, a slip joint is always going to be typically thinner, right? It's not going to have a thumb stud. It's not going to have a pocket clip in a lot of cases. So it just depends on what you want. But a slip joint knife is definitely something that you should carry and you should have for mixed company, especially in a knife that you could hand someone.
Yeah.
This even has complication, right? This does not.
It's interesting because when you think of a slip joint, you think of a knife that is an intentional knife. Like I know, at least for me and Greg, when you carry a slip joint, typically it's accompanying another knife, whether it's a tactical knife or an EDC knife or all the above.
Yep.
This is a knife I'd hand somebody. It's not a knife that might hurt somebody, which every knife can hurt somebody, sure, but it's safe. It's easy.
They can open it, they can close it. They don't have to look at it with eyes of bewilderment. Right.
And slip joints are typically two-hand opening. It's not like, something that's a one-hand opener that intimidates somebody. It's just, Pawpaw's knife.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
easy. They make little things like this little additional thumb stud that you can add. Like I added it to this Luna, thanks to Greg, that makes it where it's one-hand opening. But for the most part, you don't see a slip joint that's got that. It's got the little fingernail groove, and you open it. And, you cut your apple or whatever it is, and that's it.
I just think we're trying to ultimately evangelize the level of EDC that you have. Is if we're going to grow, which I think you should want to grow the community, but if you want to grow the community, you've got to be approachable, and you've got to have things that are approachable that people can appreciate. And harkening back to an uncle or a grandfather or a dad that had a traditional slip joint in their pocket is so unintimidating,
right?
That it's one of those things that is, easily approachable. It's one of those things that you can, give somebody. They're going to be able to use. They're going to like it, and they're not going to be intimidated, and they may even be willing to buy one themselves.
Right.
And that's ultimately what we want to do is help people to, not be afraid of dangerous things, but rather get into using them so they can defend themselves, defend their families, and also be useful and capable in a moment.
Well, and something like a slip joint is a knife that once before everybody carried.
Yes.
Everyone had
Guaranteed.
some sort of a traditional slip joint or a knife very similar to it in their pocket. And nowadays, it's not a common thing. But it is easy to talk about because you can pull it out and you can hand it to somebody and they can open it and feel it. Whereas, you might be a little bit more cautious to hand them a larger blade, a flipper or something, or even more like a OTF. You're not going to hand that to somebody. They think it's cool. Sure, the cool factor is absolutely there, but it is intimidating. So, guys, honestly, I think it's awesome that knife companies are leaning back towards, a traditional blade, getting back to slip joints. Yeah. And if you don't have a slip joint in your collection,
there's no excuse. $20-$30, get into it. You will not regret it.
Go grab a Luna.
Yep.
I mean, guys,
these little Boker City knives. I mean, you've got high-end materials for a reasonable price and excellent execution in the quality of build. So, yeah, there's no excuse. Dive into it. Pick up a slip joint. You will not regret it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
If you got kids and you want to get them into knives, maybe start there.
That's right. So,
guys, hope you agree with our take on slip joints.
If you don't, comment below. We want to hear what you have to say about slip joints.
Yeah, if you don't think slip joints are worth carrying, let us know. But obviously, some of these larger knife makers definitely feel like slip joints are returning.
No doubt about that.
So, guys, now is the time to get into slip joints.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Stay sharp.
Stay sharp.